Hey guys, welcome back to the Minkyu Shiyoon podcast. This is episode 3, which kind of feels like an achievement for me.
I think we got a lot of great feedback on the last episode.
Seems
like a lot of people were like the format and the things that we were talking about. What's great is there's a lot of people into Sailor Moon. I was like, oh wow, I mean, it makes
Sailor Moon was popular. People know about it, I guess.
Made me like, I was like, oh, maybe we should watch it. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe I'll do some fan art. I don't know.
Yeah, you should. Oh my God, people will flip out.
I was like, you gotta actually be a fan to do fan art, right? Technically.
Not really. Yeah. Okay. How was your week, Shiyoon? Anything new? Did you watch anything?
I mean, I've been watching this documentary called American Factory. I've been watching that. I thought it was actually very entertaining and
it's on Netflix?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
I think it's produced by Obama made their own
production company.
Company. It's called Higher Ground, I think. And I think this is their first documentary they're backing, and some really insightful, interesting things about different work culture coming together. Basically, it's a story about like a Chinese factory that opens up in America, and they're using American workers. So of course, there's kind of a conflict between the way that different countries work.
Yeah,
and,
wow.
Really interesting, also depressing, but entertaining at parts and very like illuminating. I mean, some of the footage I got, I was like, oh my God, he actually said that on.
I mean, that's the great thing about documentaries, right? It's like you can't write that stuff.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
But what did you watch, man? Did you watch anything interesting?
Yeah, I watched several movies this week. The best one that I watched for sure was Booksmart, directed by Olivia Wilde. That was by far the best one.
Olivia, isn't she? She's
an actress, yeah.
Right?
And now she's a director. And she did I think this is her first feature. It was really, really good. That story is about two high school friends. The night before their graduation, they get into, or at least one of them gets into the school that they really want to. And then just as like, I'm set, everyone else, you guys are probably going to go to shitty colleges and end up shit. And I studied so hard during high school, so I'm going to be great. And everyone else is like, well, I got into Stanford and I got into Harvard while I was partying. And then she has this kind of like existential crisis of like, oh my God, everyone juggled both, while I only focused on one thing, and now I'm going to miss out on the thing that everyone else did, which is partying, having fun, like having like a normal high school life. Wow. So these two girlfriends try to cram all of that into one night. Going to like several different high school parties. And
that's awesome.
It's so fun, so refreshing. The writing's really good, and I teared up at like 5 different points.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just really stellar. And what else? I watched A Simple Favor, which is okay. It's fine. Yeah. A lot of people recommended it to me, and I could see why. I mean, it was kind of this campy kind of thriller, like a Gone Girl between two girlfriends again.
Right.
It was okay. Yeah.
It was okay?
Yeah,
okay.
I thought the lead actresses were good, but in terms of what they were going for, I mean, that's the hard thing with camp, is like it has to teeter right on that balance. Like I think the writer Susan Sontag wrote the infamous Notes on Camp, and she talked about how like for it to be camp, if I'm remembering correctly, like you can't intentionally have it be camp and then call it camp. Like there has to be like this level of like not being too aware, and I feel like this kind of was, and so it was like teetering right on that balance of like, because I think the worst case scenario of camp is like when it becomes like tacky. I was like, maybe. Anyway.
So it was tacky.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. What else? I saw Late Night, which is I would say that's a rom-com between two, again, female leads, starring Mindy Kaling and Emma Thompson. And that was cute. It was just like a nice little cute feel-good movie.
It's a rom-com.
Like it's not romantic. There's definitely like a rom-com B story happening underneath that was very light and cute, but it was mainly about these like two women.
That's cool.
But yeah.
What you would recommend out of the 3?
Booksmart.
Booksmart.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It just made me feel like you see the high school experience in the high school changing through movies. And this was, I think, one of the first times where I felt a little bit old watching it, because it was just like, wow, high school is really different from what I remember now. Like the archetypes seem different, and the culture seems really different, but still it was so relatable watching it. And but yeah, should we introduce our guest at this point, or is there anything that you want to talk about before we?
No, let's get right into it.
Yeah.
We have this awesome guest. She's amazing. Friend, artist,
storyboard
artist. She works currently at Disney Animation Feature
on an unannounced project.
Unannounced. She's super talented. I hope you guys follow her on Instagram. She's got like 1 million followers. She does these really cool like comics that I feel like almost everyone like they're very touching to me. So I always get touched by them when I look at them. And,
yeah, they're fantastic.
And her name is Carrie Liao.
Carrie Liao, everybody.
Welcome.
Hi, Carrie. Carrie, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. Those are such nice words, Shiyoon.
Carrie,
I mean everyone of them.
This show as an entity is just a huge admirer of yours. So,
guys, thank you. That's
huge fans.
super nice.
Yeah.
And I'm huge fans of you guys, so that's like a huge honor. No, I really truly mean it.
So how have you been? How's your just general state of being these days?
It's good. It's really good. I'm really loving work. Everything at work is going really well. Yeah, it's like I've been at Disney Feature for like 2 years now, and
wasn't it just recently your second year anniversary?
Yeah, it was my second year anniversary.
Congratulations!
Thank you. I made it for 2 years. So
do you
that's
get a pin?
Something.
Yeah, what do you get when you
for your first year you get a pin, and then for years 2 through 4 you get nothing.
So the 5th year you get a pin.
Yeah, then the fifth year you get another pin,
cool.
And then I think at some point, like if you make it long enough, they give you like a bottle of champagne or something, or you get to go to like a nice dinner.
Ooh.
This is the secrets of longevity at Disney Feature Animation. They take you to a dinner. Oh, and then we have one employee there who is more just like the honorary soul of Disney Feature, Bernie Mattinson. He's been there for I think 60 years, 65 years or something.
That's crazy.
They actually gave him a statue with his face. So
wow.
like once you reach a certain point, they'll sculpt you. So
I love that.
Yeah.
So do they have it in the studio somewhere?
No, he gets to keep it.
Oh,
otherwise that's kind of weird. But during the celebration for his anniversary, they also had a cake in the shape of his face, and we didn't eat that.
Okay.
So
wait, you guys did eat it?
yeah, we ate it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you guys ate it.
Yeah.
Which part
So
did you
it's
eat?
fairly strange and cannibalistic.
The ear.
Delicious.
Disney cannibalism. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I think I have part of his shirt or something. So yeah.
So Carrie, I noticed that you were nodding along when I was talking about some of the movies that I watched. Did you watch any of this?
I watched Booksmart.
What did you think?
I loved Booksmart. And I have to say that I had heard about Booksmart from a lot of friends before I watched it, and then it had been really hyped for me. So I think even going in, my expectations were really high. So I think at first when I was watching it, I'm like, is this meeting my expectations? I'm not sure yet. But I think definitely after watching it and thinking about it, I thought it's just such a good film, because I feel like, first of all, it presents like a really beautiful relationship between friends, that they're so incredibly encouraging to each other.
I know,
and
so touching.
Yeah, so touching.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of, and one thing I absolutely noticed, I don't want to like spoil it or anything for people who haven't watched it yet, because you should watch it if you haven't. It's a really good film. But one thing I really noticed when I was watching it that I loved was that, a lot of times when you have movies about high school and stuff, you have kind of the stereotypes of like, the jock group.
Right,
like
exactly.
the outcasts, this or that. And then there's a certain level of like meanness or animosity between or division between those groups.
Yeah.
And in this movie, you really saw that those groups kind of existed in a way, but they weren't
Everyone
mean
was
to each
treated
other.
like a human being.
Everyone
Yeah.
was kind to each other in a way.
That doesn't happen in high school. No.
Yeah. So is it unrealistic?
Maybe it does.
Yeah, but I just thought it was beautiful, because it's like, even if those divisions do exist in high school, this movie wasn't emphasizing it. It was just saying like, these are just kids, these are just people, and like there's many myriad ways that they can interact with each other, and it doesn't always have to be playing along with that like stereotype.
Yeah, I love that, because it's like,
Yeah.
I think for every generation, there are always like new high school movies that really
for sure.
perfectly capture
that define.
the zeitgeist of high school life at that time. And then there are all these movies that follow after that just kind of borrow off of the archetypes, borrow off of the stereotypes.
It kind of sets the tone, and then a lot of movies ape that. So
Right, but then high school culture changes. There are things that are timeless about, high school life, but at the same time, with technology advancing, culture advancing, issues advancing, like that changes. And then so some new high school movie has to come out that reflects the times in a correct way where high school students will relate to it too. And I feel like this movie is kind of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And with each one, it reminds me about how grateful I am not to be in high school at this time.
Yeah.
Because of social media and stuff. That must be brutal.
I know. Everything's exposed. Gosh, yeah.
And if you haven't seen Booksmart, I would totally recommend you watch it because, I don't want to spoil anything, but just visually too, it's like a wonderful film visually. And I do think that there was one standout scene towards the end where it's in a party scene, but I just thought, you'll know it when you see it, I believe. I just thought it was like the most beautiful scene of like this moment of realization for one of the characters and like a deep, impactful moment for them. But it's shot in such a way that I was like, wow, this is gorgeous.
Yeah. That's really interesting because the director is she's an actress, right? And then
I think she really played to that strength too, because for me, one of the strongest things about that film was also the two leading performances.
Oh, absolutely.
I think without their performance, it wouldn't have like really lit up the story the way it did. Yeah. But sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I was surprised because it's like, you were saying how visually interesting it was. I was like, oh, like I wonder, just as an actress, because she's mostly just been in the character. She had maybe, she's not behind the camera, but the fact that you're bringing up that it was also visually interesting, I was like, oh, that's cool. Like,
totally.
There's this kind of thing that I was like, oh, that's kind of unexpected, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's cool because it kind of maybe in a way subverts your expectation of like, oh, how much do actors know about how to direct behind the camera,
Yeah. So, Carrie, we usually like to open up. Usually, we've only done like 2 episodes. We like to we're experimenting with opening up with a fan question.
Oh,
is that cool with you?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So this is a question from Savannah. She says, "Hello, my name is Savannah, and I'm a big fan of both of your work and have been really enjoying the podcast so far. I heard that you are open to questions, so I hope you don't mind me asking one. I totally understand if you can't get back to this. I know you're probably getting a lot of emails." We're getting emails, but not as much as you'd think. I'm a recent college graduate, currently on the hunt for storyboarding/revisionist jobs, but I'm having some trouble getting my foot in the door. Do you have any advice on ways I can make my portfolio stand out and or studies I can do while job hunting? Thank you for taking the time to read this. I look forward to hearing more of your podcast. Our listeners are so polite. You're welcome, Savannah. Thank you so much for submitting this question. And what an opportune time to do so, as Carrie is an amazing storyboard artist. So
Too nice. Okay.
What are your guys' opinions on this?
I don't have any opinions. So.
You don't have any opinions?
You don't have any opinions? Wow. That's a first.
Yeah. You can still have opinions. It's fine. I think that it's a question I actually get asked a lot.
Sure.
Because a lot of people, I think I'm obviously biased, but I think story is one of like the most interesting jobs in animation just because of like the role that you have in crafting the story and kind of the skill sets needed to be a successful storyboard artist these days, which is honestly, it's a lot of work because you have to know, in a way you direct a little because you have to move the camera, and you're like, in a way, you're a little bit a layout artist because in these days, the boards demand like more complicated backgrounds sometimes. So so it's really tricky, but getting your foot in the door, I think there are many, many ways that you can do that, but I kind of have to just speak from my experience, which is I personally got my start from doing an internship because a lot of the studios out here in LA, they will partner with different colleges and reach out and say like, hey, we have this internship program. Like, if you guys are interested in participating, you guys should apply. And then actually when the intern recruiter spoke at my school, they said like, oh, one of the shows we do is kind of like I don't know if anyone would remember the show actually, but it's kind of like the Dora the Explorer, but for Chinese people. It's called Ni Hao Kai Lan. But when I heard that, it was kind of like, I can kind of use that to my advantage because I am a Chinese American, and I kind of have like an affinity with that, like a language speaking show, and I can use that as like, hey, would like to intern for that particular show. And I managed to get an internship, and then on that show, I just got to know people. You know, I got to know the artist, I got to know the line producer, and then actually I spoke with the line producer before I left my internship, just saying like, I would really love to take a test for a show that's coming up that you're going to produce on. And I was able to take a test because I had that relationship with that person. And then I took the test. I did not get that job. It was for the first Kung Fu Panda TV show. There's actually a new Kung Fu Panda TV show they're making now.
Of course.
It always repeats itself.
Yeah.
But,
no shade, but
yeah.
of course. Yeah.
But I didn't get the job for that one. But then I did get feedback where the producer said, I think you would be really good for like a new show, like not an existing property. So keeping that in mind, I just kept an eye on the job website. And then when I saw that there was a posting for a story revisionist position for a new show, I was like, I contacted the producer and I said like, hey, you said I would be maybe a better candidate for like a new property, and can I take a test for it? And he was awesome, and he gave me a test, and that's how I got my first job. So
Great.
And then
so there was a very proactive element
Yes.
for you, it sounds like,
Yeah,
where you did
it's like,
contact a producer, and you kind of there was like you kind of had to get to know the producer a little bit, or at least like exchange communication with him.
And I think not in a way where it's like, how can I get to know people to my advantage?
Exactly.
Which I think sometimes in these days, a lot of people talk about networking, and it can feel like a very like
there's
climbing,
definitely a right way to do it and a wrong way
exactly.
to do it.
Because sometimes it's very much like, what can I get from this person? But it's more, you just want to get to know people because you might be working with them in the future, and you want to, if people are kind enough to like share their wisdom with you, it's great to learn from people who are in the industry
and just kind of genuinely make friends too,
absolutely.
who like share your opinion and share your passions, and like share similar opinions about animation too.
And then after that first job, every subsequent job I've gotten is through people I've met and gotten to know, kind of as you were saying, where it's like you just meet people, you want to get to know people, be friendly, be social, and opportunities have come up that way. But so in my case, the internship really worked out because it was my foot in the door, and then it was my opportunity to get to know people actually in the studio and build those relationships, and also just get an idea of how the pipeline works, because there's nothing more valuable than that kind of like on-hand experience, like in studio experience. But I do think one great advantage people have these days is the internet, and just in some ways it's a bit intimidating because like now that the internet has kind of opened up things globally for everyone, it's like the exposure is everywhere. And I know for a lot of people starting out, it might be intimidating because it might feel like all of a sudden the competition also comes from everywhere, where it's like now you can see someone who's doing amazing work from like a totally different country, and you're like, shoot, now that person is like I have to be as good as that person, or I have to be good as that person. But it really is wonderful on the other hand, because everyone has the opportunity to have their work seen. And I think that in that aspect, it is like getting your work out there. And as much as I know that like social media can be a blessing and a curse, because I feel like a lot of people can get really wrapped up in like just like getting so many likes or so many followers, but it is an opportunity to share your work, and I think it's an opportunity to participate in the larger animation community, like the global animation community. And I have gotten jobs actually from like Instagram, that like even jobs not in animation, like illustration jobs. It's a really good tool, and I think it's just about how you use it. Like don't let it dominate your life, because I know that it can be very hard to just like count followers and count likes, but kind of just use it to, don't put too much pressure on yourself, but use it just to put your work out there. And
I would say that too, another interesting thing about that is like likes and followers doesn't necessarily translate to jobs or like ideal candidate for jobs. Like I mean, there could be someone with like 30,000 followers or whatever that a lot of studios or directors would never hire just because it's maybe not the right fit. But then there are plenty of artists who maybe only have like 300 followers who I would hire in a heartbeat, you know? So like, if you have a lot of followers and likes, then, you know, all the more power to you. That's such a blessing. Definitely cherish it and celebrate it. But if you don't, I would also say, don't let that get you down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let that make you feel like you don't have a chance, because there's nothing. It's not the be all end all be all.
Yeah, there's like a whole list of people that I want to work with that I've been like discovering on Instagram and stuff, and like most of them don't have more than like 10,000 followers or whatever. So, I have another question. That did you?
I was just thinking of this person and wondering, like, if I was her, I sent out my like portfolios to all these different studios.
That was my next question. Yeah.
I'm like waiting, like,
oh, okay.
Well, what should I do? Like, is there anything proactive? Like, okay, after I sent the work out, like, is there?
Well,
seems like are there things that I could work on in the meantime while I'm waiting for portfolios, or are there things that I guess, because I guess when I'm picturing myself in that position, and like online, there's just so much stuff, but also every show is looking for completely different things. Too.
That's the other thing, is like there's so many varieties of shows and feature films that like you don't have to try to please everybody in a way.
So what do you say to someone that's just like first trying to get their foot in the door, I guess? Like, do you try to change yourself? And
I mean, that's hard. I think like tying that into the second part of this question too, where it's like, what can I do to make my portfolio stand out, is that knowing kind of, if you're just trying, it depends on also like what kind of like job do you want? Because there is a difference between like, say, TV boarding and feature boarding. Some of the demands are different, even though the lines are getting a little blurred these days, where a lot of TV shows are becoming very cinematic. But it's kind of like, it might help determine the style, I guess. My feeling is always that if you have a story portfolio, honestly, the strongest thing you can do is kind of put story sequences in there. Like, they don't have to be really long, but they do have to kind of like tell a complete story, like a beginning, middle, end. And it doesn't have to be like a long epic thing. It could just even be like a moment in a story. But even moments have like story arcs. So I think it's important. The number one thing for a story portfolio is to have some story sequences in there. And honestly, I think the strongest is if it's like your own personal project, because it's a way for you to, I know it can be hard to think of an idea, but I think it's a way for you to express not just your storyboarding technical skills, but your storytelling skills, where it's like, what is the story that you want to tell, versus like, oh, I'm going to adapt this story, or I'm going to like use these existing characters and properties to tell another story. Right. I think they really value like your own creativity.
Was there one in particular that you can remember that like, I was like, oh, that, like, you saw it in the portfolio review and you went, wow, there's something about, because I mean,
Carrie, because you do sit in portfolio review sessions at Disney, right?
Not currently, actually.
Oh, not currently.
Yeah,
okay.
I sat in portfolio reviews for like on some of the TV shows I've worked in, but the portfolio reviews at Disney can happen like anytime. Like, a lot of story leadership goes to them, but then also it's like it can happen randomly, so it's like whoever's schedule is available and stuff. So,
and then there are story portfolio reviews at Disney for just regular journeyman storyboarding jobs, and then there are internships there, and then there are apprenticeships or training programs there too.
We have internships, apprenticeship, and just like straight story artist hires. So.
Okay, so I have a question for all three of us. In that setting, if we could all visualize the ideal story portfolio, like the one, because it's like this question is asking, how do I stand out amongst all these other story portfolios that maybe, especially if they're going for a journeyman job or a training position, they probably have all those things that you're looking for, it to a certain extent, right? Because to end up on that judging table, like, you have to go through several hoops, right? So I'm curious, like, is there like an ideal story portfolio that you guys see where it's like check mark, check mark, check mark? Can you guys describe that?
I'll go first because I have the most uninformed opinion out of the three.
All you've done is just storyboard for a Glenn Keane feature
I've
film.
never
Jihyun.
storyboarded, so
come on.
My only experience is what I'm projecting in my head.
Yeah, let's project.
So
Let's be upfront about it.
For me, I always go to the screenings, and that's my only experience of like the storyboard or just even looking at that.
Yeah.
And so I'm always seeing it as
So
like an
you're
audience.
like you're judging like the cream of the crop then, because you're already judging from like a screening which already has all these journeyman
Anyway, I
storyboard
love everybody
artists,
that.
and then you're picking like, okay, who's the best scene?
Disclaimer, I love
I don't judge at all.
Yes. Maybe judging's a harsh word. If someone has accessing.
Right.
Accessing. We're not assuming to.
I think the work that I react to best when I'm watching it screened, when they have screenings for at Disney or even
Netflix.
on Netflix,
Yes.
the work that seems like I react to most, that stands out for me, is there's just this feeling of like. There's this feeling that somebody is very aware of what's coming next, but like they're holding it from me, and it's like this expectation of like, I want to know what's the next thing that's gonna happen.
Yeah, that narrative control.
Yeah,
right?
there's like
Yeah.
this dramatic tension in there.
Anticipation.
There's
Yeah.
this anticipation, but of something that you think is gonna happen, but you really want to know what's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
I feel like some.
I think that's a universal thing.
It's like storytelling
Oh,
skill.
okay.
No, but that's
no, but
important.
it's true. It's good to, it's good to put out.
That's.
I totally agree.
And I
yeah.
feel like some people use it with their staging. Other people do it with like the way they draw the characters and how they react to the situation. But it's for me, like as just a naive, uninformed design person from design, like those are the things that really I go, wow, like who storyboarded that particular sequence, and like that's the thing that
it's like this gut feeling.
Yeah,
it sounds like
because when they cut in the film, it's like a lot of different people's work, and the things. I always think about the things that are memorable, and like when I think about quality, I guess it's kind of a question of quality of like what was the most memorable thing that you kept with you even after you watched the screening. What were those moments? And it's like, and there's particular story artists that are just great at just kind of pulling at your heartstrings of just like making you want to know what's the next shot or what's
drawing you right into the story. Yeah. What about you, Carrie?
I think that like kind of what you're pulling at is kind of the storytelling in the scene. And actually you should correct something I said earlier is I have actually sat in on portfolio reviews for like apprenticeships and internships.
Exactly.
Yeah. I totally forgot about, but I did do that. And then I think that when looking at those, the things that stood out were going back to what I said, where it's like seeing someone telling like an original story and just really clearly seeing like their voice, you know, because I feel like there were portfolios where, and really I want to encourage, if you're interested in boarding and you see this position, I want to encourage you to apply, just even if you don't think you're ready, or even if you're like, I'm not sure, like, am I good enough for like this studio or this position? Because truly, like, we get a wide spectrum of like draftsmanship levels and like styles when it comes to the portfolios for the apprenticeship and stuff. Like I think the ones that stood out, they weren't necessarily the most like polished drawings, or they weren't like the most beautiful drawings or anything like that, but they had a really strong, distinctive storytelling voice. It was like some of them were funny, some of them were emotional, but they all channeled this kind of very strong, like they evoked something in all the people who were watching them. So, or looking at the reels or like the boards that they put up. I think it really is like having that story sequence and then, you know, utilizing that to really tell something that has like that kind of like has a specific emotion or a specific purpose that people can feel. So I think that.
So even going to because I think that's really interesting. Like when you're talking about voice, and you always have to contrast that with something that doesn't have voice. Like, what is the thing that makes someone look at someone's work? Like, I'm sure it's like kind of something that you just react to. But could you help articulate, like, what is that thing that makes something have a voice and something that doesn't?
Oh, I think that's like a good question, but like a really tricky one because I think there's like.
Well, it depends, right?
Yeah, and I also think it's not necessarily like we're not talking about taste because taste sometimes plays a factor in how much someone like relates to something.
Yeah.
But I think it's just if you're doing a portfolio and you're doing a story sequence, I think your voice is just like, just don't be afraid to tell a story that you want to tell, like, and it's true that it might not touch everyone in the same way. But I think that if you are really genuine and you like, and you're like, put a lot of work into it and you're like, this is something that speaks to me, like you feel, then it doesn't matter if not everyone relates to it. It's like, even if I don't relate to it, like in the same way that someone else does or that you do, like I can look at it and see like someone's voice is there because they put a lot of themselves in
because
it.
it's like their unique take on things.
Yeah, it's their unique take.
Because it's like that, because I do think as storyboard artists or directors, like you do get a sense of like, okay, here's an expected story, right? Here's an expected like sequence of action, sequence of reaction shots, this happens and that happens, which is fine. And you sometimes need those storyboard artists too. But then I think there are those storyboard artists with that story sense of like doing something unexpected that kind of lets the reviewer know, hey, I do think differently.
I think another good thing to do is just, if you're having trouble thinking about like, how do I craft an original sequence to put in a portfolio, just think about honestly like what you love drawing, like what you enjoy doing, because I feel like you should really embrace what you love doing.
Because that's going to be your strength.
Yeah, that is your strength.
Just your natural strength.
Yeah, and I remember when I was like starting out and then I was putting together my portfolio and I was like, what kind of sequence do I do? And honestly, it's really funny because there are some like easy default kind of sequences that I think you see a lot, and there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah,
but
we're not shading you by saying
anybody,
this, but there's a lot of There's
a lot of chases.
There's a lot of chases.
A lot of chases,
which is understandable. You want to show like the action variety.
Because a chase is an easy like beginning, middle, end kind of thing. There's a lot of chases.
I see a lot of train sequences. Not gonna lie.
No, sometimes fight sequences. A lot of fight sequences because you see like conflict, an easy conflict opposition sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with those. But I'm just saying it's easy. It's really easy to like default to a certain kind of thing because you're like, oh shoot, what kind of idea do I have? But kind of like if you're having trouble coming up with an original story sequence, just think like, what do I love drawing? Like, what do I enjoy? Like, what do I enjoy watching?
Yeah.
And kind of just apply that, because I feel like when it's something that's personal and that you enjoy, like it'll come out, like you'll see it. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So Carrie, we have a lot of questions that we want to get through today in
I'm
this
sorry,
episode.
but
that wasn't meant to be like
adequately answered.
Oh yeah,
question.
totally. Yeah.
Studies you can do while job hunting. Just keep studying film. Study like boards by people you admire, kind of just to see how they board. Because even if you send, like Shiyoon, you're saying, like after you send in a portfolio and you're just kind of waiting, like what can you do to keep brushing up on your skills? I'd say keep practicing the storyboarding skills. Keep like coming up with original story sequences and ideas and kind of seeing how you'd execute them. And even though I don't follow this rule always myself, like keep your like tools sharp by like life drawing and all that stuff.
I never life draw, you
I
guys.
know.
I'm
I've
so
really
ashamed.
fallen off the boat with that. But off the wagon?
Off the boat. I think off the boat. Yeah.
So keep studying story, and there's like some really good story books too that you could read up on. I really like the what is it called? On Writing.
Stephen King?
Well, On Writing Stephen King, but what's McKendrick's book?
Oh, On Filmmaking. Alexander McKendrick, yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, so good.
It's one of my favorite books.
I know.
So
I'm personally not a fan of Robert McKee's story, and I'm not a fan of Save the Cat, and I want to go on a ramble on that someday. But I do think it's important to read those, because that's just the language that everyone speaks.
There is a lot, a lot of people use the Save the Cat language, and then I was saying, you guys should like be more spicy and stuff. And, like,
so
your,
before
like,
you guys,
opinions.
before the podcast was starting, like Carrie was like, you guys should just be honest and spicy.
Yeah, because I know that it's like you don't ever want to like.
And we're building up to that.
Building up to that, but
we're building up to that. So stick with us,
guys.
People
I
want
ate some
your
spicy ramen ramen?
So.
Yeah, he just ate some spicy ramen. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I mean, you know us so well, and you know that we have some spicy takes. But I feel like for the mass audience, like they don't know us so well. So we didn't. We just wanted to let everyone know. Look, we're not trying to, be off-putting. We're not trying to offend. We're just, just like get to know us first, so we can be really honest.
But tying
later.
that back to the book thing,
Yeah.
it's just like, even if we're fans of kind of like different books on storytelling and filmmaking, they're all part of like this great big swirling like storytelling
totally
like environment that we're in, and then so it's good to know about
storytelling
them,
Hollywood storytelling consciousness, entity. And that's the thing. It's like, every executive or producer you talk to, they're gonna be very versed in the McKee and Save the Cat language. So it's
or
like,
the vocal,
just go ahead and read it, but you don't have to conform to it. That's all I'm saying. If you read it and you disagree with a lot of things, which is how I felt reading both of those things. I personally have like a big problem with that type of like artist help book or artist guidebook, where it's like basically what they're doing is they're analyzing all these stories from the past, and then they're recognizing patterns, and then they're
It's like a computer. It's AI.
Oh shit. Okay, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Let me
finish my thought.
Automation.
It's like they're extracting these patterns from the surface too, and then they're saying adapt these patterns in your story, and then that's how your story is going to be good. But it's like you're totally disregarding for the artist where that original spark came from and how that worked. Where it's like that intuitive, more like heart aspect of the story is what actually made the story good, rather than the mechanics of like how the story works from the surface, from the outside. But at the same time, I get it. Like, it's just, you just have to like learn it and have it in the back of your mind.
Yeah, it's part of your tool belt.
Yeah, it's part of your tool belt. And in story meetings,
This kind of leads into some of the...
Yeah, but wait, before we get into...
Sorry, I don't want to jump
the
the gun.
No, please. Feel free to boss us around, whatever.
No, this is your podcast.
But, okay. I want to get to the fire round. Is that okay?
Yeah. So answer these as truthfully and honestly.
Okay, so
and we're gonna start easy.
Okay, so the fire round is just you're gonna trap me.
It's
with
A or
questions.
B, and then you have to choose.
Oh, it's A or B. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like A or B. You have to choose, and
from the heart,
from the
moment.
Not even
Okay.
And
from
some
the
of them
heart,
are.
from your
We're gonna
stomach.
start easy.
Okay.
And
nothing.
if you really
nothing that
want
can
to
incriminate
pass,
me or get me fired. So.
Oh no, this is all very incriminating.
Oh,
So yeah,
great,
get ready.
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so fire round. Cats or
Okay.
dogs?
Cats.
Hamilton.
Dogs.
Hamilton or Les Mis?
Hamilton.
New York or LA?
L.A.
Yes.
Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Ooh.
you go.
God, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Wait, Lord of the Rings or
No,
Harry Potter?
that was the correct answer.
No,
Yeah, let's move on.
the movie or the books?
The whole entity of it.
Ooh, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
See.
Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones?
Lord of the Rings.
House Targaryen or House Stark?
House Targaryen.
Yes. Okay. House Targaryen or House Tyrell?
Oh, House Targaryen.
Oh, okay. All right. Ursula K. Le Guin or J.R.R. Tolkien?
Ooh, I gotta go with Tolkien.
Oh,
Just
wow.
for me personally.
Yeah,
I know you love Le Guin.
Yeah. No, I love them both. Spider-Verse or Your Name?
Spider-Verse.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got it.
Disney feature animation or Pixar?
Honestly.
Oh, this is hard.
Really?
No, they both make really good stuff. Oh, they're different in a way. Oh, I know. Sorry, I know this is a lightning round.
No. That's
No,
fine.
that's okay. You can
Be
take your
deliberate.
time.
You can pass if you want to.
Yeah, you can pass.
We'll
Yeah.
give you one pass.
I'll do feature animation right
Yeah.
now.
Because you work there.
Yeah,
Your
okay.
friends are there.
I mean, yeah, my
Yeah.
friends are there. I have a very strong positive association with it right now. I got an office and a couch.
Yes.
Nice.
For those reasons, Disney feature animation.
Yeah.
Sondheim or Andrew Lloyd Webber?
Ooh, Sondheim.
Yeah.
Who are those people? Let's go.
They're musical composers and lyricists.
Music for
Oh,
Broadway,
okay.
so.
Alright.
Novels or TV series?
This is a mean question.
I know. Yeah.
Oh God.
They're supposed to be mean.
Oh my God. No, I feel like I have to support reading.
Yeah.
Novels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
But I do love TV series because I'm a visual learner.
Hand-drawn or CG?
Hand-drawn.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. Okay. You answer them all correctly.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm glad
No, just kidding.
I'm glad I passed the test.
Yeah. So, I think this episode is going to be probably released.
Wait,
close
I didn't answer them all correctly. I said cats. I know you don't think that's the right
No,
answer.
you answered them all correctly because they're your answers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
right.
Oh, we're
Yeah,
doing that.
That's what I mean. I mean,
Yeah.
according to me, oh no.
Yeah.
But, I'm not the one answering the fire rounds.
Okay.
Wait, I kind of want to go back to this House Targaryen, House Stark.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
what made you choose House Targaryen?
Wait, yeah. So before
okay.
she goes in, because we're about to open a whole can of worms here.
Oh,
and
shit.
the reason is
Here we go.
because I think this episode's going to be released close to the Emmys, and so we were thinking because TV is very much a huge part of the animation industry, equally as feature film. Mm-hmm. So maybe we could do a little bit of like 2018, 2019 TV in review thing where we're gonna,
Ooh, yeah, let's talk about this.
Yeah, we're gonna open up
Let's
some
talk
old
about
wounds.
this. Yeah.
Literally. And so, okay, on that note, we're gonna talk a lot about like the past year in TV, but so yeah, this is an old wound that we're opening right up because this is the only chance we have. And I feel like once the finale aired and once we all had our collective reaction towards it, it was kind of one of those things where it was just like, all right, let's move on.
Wait,
and we just kind of like, there was like a flurry.
Spoiler alert.
Oh,
We will.
yeah.
We will
okay.
get to that.
All right.
But I do think like anyone who's interested in Game of Thrones will at this point probably have all seen it, and probably
we're gonna be talking about
the death. But here's the thing: is like going back to like what you were saying about like how a film or a story lingers after you've seen it. I feel like in terms of Game of Thrones, the collective response has definitely been like, okay, the finale aired, there was a flurry of hot takes, and then everyone was like, I'm ready to move on, and everyone just like never thought about it again.
Let's leave this behind.
It feels like 5 years ago when this ended to
my
me,
gosh, it
because
does.
doesn't it? Because it's like no one like once everyone just like had that outburst of anger, like nobody ever talked about it again, and they were like, oh, new Lord of the Rings show.
It is like the way I felt after the Lost finale.
Really interesting.
Did you like the Lost finale? We might have to have
I
words.
stopped watching
Okay.
Lost a little bit just because like I just found the cliffhanger format so disrespectful. I was like, no, I do not have time for this. But okay, so
Jihyun ruined it for me. She just like told me.
the
What,
last
the
finale.
Last
I think she showed me a video of like the last finale.
Wait, so
It's you're better off. You're better off. It's fine. You don't need to go through all of
Yes,
that.
but you know,
Really? Oh,
obviously,
okay.
Game of Thrones, it's nominated for like 5,000 things in the Emmys.
because it's over.
It's
Oh,
over.
and okay, I do want to disclaim this by saying like, but it is the culmination of the hard work of a lot of people.
Yeah,
I respect that hard work.
100%, Yeah,
Sure.
I'm just gonna be a little spicy when it comes to like storytelling.
And that's
So-
I think the dichotomy that we could really acknowledge as like in criticism is like when we're talking about one thing, we're not trashing the whole thing in its entirety.
Yeah, I just didn't want to get that caught up with like the hot takes and stuff.
Oh, yeah, totally.
'cause sometimes words come out and you're like, oh, sorry.
Yeah,
So-
and
No,
it's
yeah.
like, you know, obviously we're acknowledged, like, Game of Thrones was collectively a huge joy. You know,
Yes.
like it really gave us so much throughout all the years, and nothing's ever gonna be able to take that away. Where every Sunday I woke up with like an anxiety, where it's like,
Who's
something's
gonna
gonna happen.
die
Like
now?
I was like, man, it's such a beautiful, bright LA day today. Why do I feel really anxious? Oh yeah, because 6 o'clock.
Yeah, Game of Thrones.
So how do you feel about the ending?
I did not like it one bit.
Yeah,
I
same.
And I will confess that like it was like kind of the second to last and last season as a whole. I think it was just much more of a struggle, like because I actually went back and rewatched the earlier seasons, and then going back to season 1, I was like, my God, so much better.
Yeah.
Like, and I do confess that like I think it has to do with running out of source material to work off of. Because I think that they did get a blueprint of what was to come, but having like George R. R. Martin's like actual dialogue and his
Yeah.
words to play with, I think that really strengthened them, because if you could even just tell, like anybody can tell, like you go to the first season and then the last season and the dialogue is just different. The
Not
first
the
season,
same.
it's so elegant and
Yeah.
it's so like clever and so like it sets things up so well, and then it's like that
So
anticipation
you read
talk
the
about.
books and
I actually
and the-
read the first book, and then shamefully I was like, wow, that was like a journey. So I got impatient and I went on Wikipedia and read the synopsis for all the other books, and then I was like, wow, nothing good happens to these characters. So I just decided not to read the rest of them.
So my question is this: so
Yeah.
you're feeling, because there was a flurry of hot takes, and I think the most common one that probably everyone could agree at to a certain extent is that maybe like the turn was just executed badly.
I think, yeah, and actually, because I do, after watching shows, I do love reading like online critics, like
Right.
like
The
AV
good
Club,
ones.
all
Yeah.
of that stuff. I love reading their takes on it because it's like they have a wealth of like knowledge regarding reviewing content that I do not. And I think, and also it can sometimes reinforce some of the things I'm feeling and also give me new ideas or new ways to view things. But
Yeah.
I think it was that when I look at what they did, I could see the workings of the turn that they were trying to do, but I do think it's the way in which they did it that was like, it was just poor execution. I
Right.
thought it was just really, really bad.
And
like,
I feel like across the board, that's
Yeah.
definitely something that everyone agrees with. To like no one's gonna say no, that was executed perfectly because
Yeah.
it just wasn't.
And I even think, like, not to disrespect anyone's like true feelings or anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes I also feel like the people who are like, yeah, I like that. That was good. I'm like, are you trying to convince yourself? Okay, because I was a little upset at like the episode where she destroys everything, because I was like, why all of a sudden like
That was so. I remember
I was
like,
just like, what is
watching with my friends.
happening?
Me too. I was
Yeah.
like, why is she doing that?
yeah, like I don't understand why.
Okay. Did you feel like? I mean,
Say it.
Go ahead and say it, Chin.
Yeah, say it.
Did you feel like the creators themselves wanted that ending where if they were not straight white men?
I
It
think
would've been
so.
different?
Honestly, yes. I think if like two
Like their story
women,
sense compelled them to go, this is...
Well, I think they were, to be fair to them, I think they were working with exactly what you said, Carrie, like a blueprint of
Yeah,
like what was
I just
to
think
happen.
that terrible execution.
Yeah.
I don't know why they. Okay, maybe I. This is only speculation, but it's like I don't know why they wrote themselves into that corner where it's like, okay, guys, we're gonna like finish this in like so many episodes, and then the pacing just awful, where all of a sudden all these things happen in quick succession, and it makes no sense. Like if they had tried to execute certain turns like earlier or seeded them earlier, then
Yeah.
maybe I'd be like, I don't like it, but like, okay, I believe it. But
Yeah.
here I'm just left confused.
Yeah.
Like, and it really seemed like they're like, I don't know. There's so many times, like, again, no shade to all the people who worked really hard on it,
Yeah,
but there's so
totally.
many times when it seemed like, okay, I really hated their post-episode commentary where they were like always patting
Oh my
themselves
God,
on
I
the
don't
back
even,
for
like, I
like
stopped like even listening
they're
to
like,
those.
do you remember that moment in the episode where Arya meets up with her wolf? The symbolism there, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. Okay, like,
Yeah.
it's fine. Like,
It's, like,
if you have
right
to tell
on your
us,
face.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you have to tell us, then
Right.
you weren't very good at the
Yeah.
episode wasn't very good. Like,
Yeah.
we're supposed to understand from the episode, not the post-episode
Right.
thing. You're not
Yeah.
supposed to
the
explain
post
it
episode
to
isn't
us.
supposed to be part of the
So-
narrative.
And then they're like, we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah, with that smile, and they're like, "You like it? Yeah, you like it." And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't like it.
Well, for
So-
me, it's like, because I'm always trying to, I can see how maybe this conversation that we're having right now feels lopsided for all the listeners who probably did like the ending and were like, no, that should have happened and that was right. Like, so I'm always trying to play devil's advocate here just a little bit. And I just feel
If
like...
you liked it, you should write to Shiyoon and Minkyu. I mean, I'm not gonna have to read this, so
Yeah.
I have no problem suggesting this. But
Sure, write to
feel
us.
free. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can, I guess, have this painful conversation keep going.
Yeah.
But I do feel like...
But I feel like you said something interesting, Mingyu, because it wasn't only... It seemed like it was a pattern that you're seeing in general, like
Yeah.
with... And then I wonder how that relates with animation, too. Like...
Yeah, well, I think that's the
It'd be
thing.
a
Is like
big can of
going back
worms.
to going back to your first question of like, if two women had written this story, would
Right.
it had been different? And I honestly do believe so. Even if in
I mean,
the case,
I don't see how it couldn't be different. you
yeah,
know? It's just a different sensibility.
A different sensibility. And, you know, when you said that, it like brought up a lot to me because like in terms of the connective tissue of like the whole collective that really brings the story together. Because like it's not just the writers that bring the story together. It's like everything, and even the actors and the actresses. And I feel like to a certain extent, this just goes to how well Emilia Clarke embodied that character. Because
they all did a fantastic job with what they had to work with.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, I think when you just look at that character in the screenplay, like just on the page, maybe like this whole show and this whole story could have gone a little bit more towards what their vision was, which was like this quote unquote tragic hero story, whatever. Like, yeah, fine, have that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think the way Emilia Clarke played that role, like, just brought such a level of like empathy to that character, where it's like, I mean, you can imagine so many different people playing that role, and in the end, it's going to be, if 5,000 people play that character, it's going to be 5,000 different characters. And maybe there's a character in there or that is much more aligned to this, like, you know, mad queen, super ambitious bulldozer character that they intentioned. But
well,
I think
didn't it seem like it came out of nowhere? Like,
yeah, and
like,
I think
in
that's
a
the
way,
thing is like,
but-
because it's not just the writers that sold the character, it's the writers, and I think more importantly, Emilia Clarke that sold us this character. And I think in some way, like, they kind of sold us a contradictory character,
right,
from both of them, because like, and not to, you know, definitely not to talk down her acting in that scene, because again, like, she acted the hell out of that scene the best she could with the material that she had. But I think at that point it was too late, where the audiences already had grown so attached to this character to maybe to the point where they were not supposed to feel like she was this true living, breathing human being with conflicts of like, how do I wield my power? Because that was the moment she turned into a robot. Like, she turned into an animatronic.
Well,
Like,
it just didn't align with the character we had seen before.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
And I know the people who liked it are going to be like, oh, don't you remember when she crucified all those guys on the way there? I'm like, yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
I've seen the series multiple times. But it's like, I think that's like making excuses for what they did. Like, in that moment, in that turn, like, the character they had been portraying for us and then selling to us, that seemed like, because I always go by this, like, I'm not saying I'm an expert on anything or that my criticism is more valid or anything. Anytime I have, like, I write a film review or I have a critique about something, it's just because what I'm feeling. And I do think that it's like, I feel like confident that I possess a story sense and stuff. And I'm like, this just feels, it doesn't feel organic. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel out of blue. It made me angry. That's why it made me angry, because I felt like they were making something happen for the sake of like plot necessity versus like, is this organically what the character do? And I mean, when it comes to like, you know, like content or shows that if you've been watching something for a long time, you've invested a lot of time in it, and you become invested in the characters and you love the characters, and it's true that you don't own them, which I think that in our modern like social media criticism age, it can become like a dangerous thing where like fans feel like they own characters. So like,
sure.
I don't like
That
this,
can
so make
turn really
this happen.
toxic quick.
But on the other hand, it's like you have this affection for these characters, and to see the showrunners kind of like do that to those characters feels in a way disrespectful of all the investment you put into it, and like because you've been buying this character that they're selling, and then they're like, surprise, turns out they're this, and you're like, they are?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, they are, and this is gonna happen. And you're like, it is? And they're like, yeah, it is. Deal with it. We're the showrunners. We have money. So
well, I think, you know, it's interesting because that brings to mind like how storytelling is always evolving.
Yes.
Like, I think, yes, for sure, we've been telling this, like, there are always going to be people who are like, no, man, we've been telling the same 3 stories since the dawn of time. It's like, okay, we get it. But also, like, the storytelling has been evolving. And to me, this story, what it has shown me is like, no, you can just disagree with the story with the writers completely and rebuke to the writers' choices.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, that's not my story. Sorry.
Yeah.
But going back to your question, Shiyoon, of like, you know, if women had written the story, would it be differently? Like, are we all in agreement that the answer is probably yes? I don't know.
Right.
What do you think, Shiyoon?
I mean, I mean, I felt like that turn was just like I wonder if, I mean, I could see if it was driven from a female's perspective, like it wouldn't have been the way that it ended.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would.
I mean, I think it could have been that ending, but I think the approach would have been different.
But the way it was handled,
Yeah, totally. It could have been way more compelling, I think.
I wonder if that speaks even more to, like, I mean, a lot of our animated films.
Bringing back to the animation industry.
Are directed by men, and a lot of the characters are female.
Yeah.
And so that,
I
like...
do have to say that, like, I wish... I enjoyed that there's a greater push for, like protagonists that are people of color and women, like more gender diversity and racial diversity, but it still is running into that thing where it's like we're telling stories about women but made by men, and I wish there's some of them are great stories, but I do wish that there are stories where it's like we're telling a story about women,
oh man,
a woman made by a woman, and you're like yes,
right.
yes,
because I still feel. Even if they are being so respectful and truthful and so full of integrity towards the female character, I don't know. I still sense a male gaze in those films, to be honest. You know?
Yeah, and I think it's not for lack of women storytellers out there.
Yeah.
I think just need the opportunity.
I know.
And give them the opportunity.
You know, it's really interesting because I'm sure you guys all saw that article about Adele Lim.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it was like she exited Crazy Rich Asians 2 because, you know, her white male counterpart writer was getting paid like 10 times or something.
It was high. I think the range for him was like 800K to $1 million, and then for her is like 110K plus.
Yeah, so like 8 times higher. And it's like, when you see that, it's like that's always how Hollywood has been run, right?
Yeah.
In a way where it's like, and I don't disagree with this metric, but it's always like, oh, you have more experience, you were the producer on the proposal, like, so automatically you're going to be able to negotiate higher, as opposed to, you know, someone like her, even though she probably has way more writing experience or writing samples than him, like she has to go for this lower kind of tier pay grade. And I feel like that's part of what's wrong with Hollywood. And you see it even in the animation system too. I feel like in terms of like how animators become animation directors, it's not at all like the live action film industry where it's like, you know, there's a lot of one of the models that I'm thinking of how to become a live action film director is like, you know, you graduate from film school, and the final year of film school, you're prepared to shoot your big feature film. Your feature film gets into Sundance, wins an award. Here you go. Here's your first big studio movie. So at like 25, 27, you're already directing your first studio movie as like someone with a strong like auteuristic voice, as opposed to animation where it's like, oh, first you get hired as a trainee, then you spend a year to become a journeyman, and then you spend 15 years as a journeyman, then you become a head of story, and then you spend 10 years as a head of story, and then you become director. So it's like just this like wait in line for like 20 years to become a director. I feel like that system is part of what's so destructive and what's blocking all these younger women from just like rising up to that deserved director spot so quickly.
I think so, because you have to make it through all of that, and it's already difficult to make it. It's like that is like passing through many ceilings.
Yeah.
You have to bust through many ceilings to attain that level, and it's already hard enough busting past like the first 2 ceilings or something. So it's a system that just makes it really hard, I think, for
and we have to ask ourselves, is this like really the right system?
I mean, do you feel like that's changing at Disney? I mean, since you're working there, I mean, it seems like Jen's in charge of the studio now, and do you feel like that system is maybe going away, or how do you feel
I couldn't say for sure, because I'm not always privy to the workings of like how the director orders and everything, but I think that there is overall in the studio a push for more diversity and a push for voices from women and people of color. And it is encouraging that, you know, like, I'm not saying that I would never say that it's like, oh, it's like the only, like, just because you're a woman or a person of color that like offers you a certain validity or credibility for a role. But I was encouraged just that Jen is our new CCO just because I was like, oh, cool. It's great to kind of have her voice. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and I think we could really use that.
Okay, so we're going to go into the rest of the TV Emmy special questions.
Sure.
So, okay, I actually had a screenshot of like all that. I'm just going to go through which TV shows you've seen.
Okay.
If that's okay. Did you watch a lot of the Emmy nominated TV shows this year?
Possibly not.
Okay.
But you can go ahead and ask me, and I will honestly say whether I've seen it or not.
Did you watch Fleabag?
I haven't seen all of Fleabag.
Okay.
So, but I do love. God, I don't want to mess up her name. Like Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yeah.
I love her because I also love Killing
Eve. Yeah. So
Love
Killing
Killing
Eve was nominated for Best Drama Series. You saw that and you loved
I saw
it.
the first season. I haven't seen the second season yet because I'm not cool and I don't have BBC. So.
Okay. Did you watch Big Little Lies?
I did, but not the second season.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The second season was a mixed bag.
Okay.
I mean, it definitely had its strong points, but that ending, I'm still processing it.
Okay.
A little bit.
Well,
yeah.
see, this makes me want to catch up on it. Like,
Yeah.
I do want to catch up on it.
Did you see Barry?
I did see Barry.
Is Barry good?
I love Barry.
Yeah. Okay, I should watch it. Okay.
NoHo Hank.
Okay.
He's my favorite character. So.
Did you see Better Call Saul?
I actually haven't, but I've heard a lot of wonderful things about it. So.
Did you see Chernobyl?
Yes. Yeah.
How is Chernobyl?
I think it was good. I liked it, but it is like, you know, sometimes with the stuff I watch, I really feel like I have to be in a certain mood if it's like the heavy stuff, like because sometimes you know you're tired from work and your brain just wants like light happy.
I know
things.
that's
and Chernobyl
such
is
a
really
thing.
like
Yeah. It demands
get
your
ready.
attention.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of like the best, I feel like my favorite films or TV shows do that. So I end up like saving them until I never watch them.
Yeah. I
Because
think
it's
that's a very accurate description of what happens with me sometimes. So
Yeah.
also, you haven't seen Chernobyl.
I haven't seen
Well,
Chernobyl, but-
episode 4 would be really hard for you.
Yeah. See, it's like, it's probably good, but do I just want to go through that experience right now? You know, do I want to be
I mean, I do think
impacted
it's
by that?
excellent. It's excellent, like
Filmmaking.
Yeah.
No.
So.
Did you watch Euphoria?
I didn't. Is that good?
I
I've
haven't
heard
seen
a lot
it
of things
either.
about it,
Oh,
so.
this is so embarrassing. I'm like asking you all these. Did you see this? Well, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Did you see this? Is it good? Was there any TV show in particular that you saw in this just past season? It could be animated as well. For example, I loved She-Ra. I don't know if you saw She-Ra yet.
I didn't see She-Ra.
It's okay.
I'm not cool.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's so
But I've
good.
also heard a lot of great things about it too. So.
Yeah. Do you have any TV shows that you saw recently that you want to talk about that you liked?
I mentioned this earlier before we started recording, but I just watched The Expanse and
Tell us about The
love it.
Expanse.
I love
Tell
The
us why.
Expanse so much.
Okay, so what is it
Sci-fi?
about, and
Yes,
what
it's
do you love
sci-fi.
so much
Okay.
about it?
Okay, well, okay. And also, I keep in mind that, like, I'm keeping in mind that we just kind of, like, had a bit of a slam fest on the end of Game of Thrones. But,
Yes.
But, like, I'm talking about the part of Game of Thrones that I do like. Think about it as Game of Thrones in space. So,
Okay.
yeah. And
That sounds like Dune to me.
Okay, Dune is actually a little more like Game of Thrones in space.
Okay.
And I do love Dune,
Yeah.
the book, because I've never seen any of.
Yeah,
I'm
I've
really
only read the
looking
book.
forward to the
Me too.
miniseries, though. Oh my gosh.
Is it a miniseries or is it a film?
Oh, I don't remember if
The
it's a film or a
the guy
miniseries,
who
but I
directed
love
the new Blade
all
Runner.
the actors.
Yeah.
Yeah, Timothy
Casting is such a
Chalamet?
important-
Chalamet? I don't know how to
Chalamet,
pronounce it.
yeah.
Chalamet, so good. And Oscar Isaac, I think.
Yeah,
but
man,
The Expanse,
yeah,
I love. It's actually, it's by like I really need to check this, but it's by like James A. something Corey, which is actually the pen name of two people. You know, I really should check this up. Let me give me a moment. The Expanse.
What about you, Shiyoon? Did you watch any while she's
I
looking
don't
it
watch
up?
TV. Sorry, guys.
That's
I'm like,
fine. But you watched that documentary.
I only watched that documentary. Yeah.
That's cool.
But I should.
You have 2 hours.
That Ali Wong movie from Netflix.
Oh, I watched. I
Always
watched
Be
like
My
half,
Maybe?
a quarter of
That
that.
was
Yeah.
not a TV show. So
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, I found the name. So, it's The Expanse is a book series by James S.A. Corey, which is actually the pen name used by collaborators Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank. And I believe it was based off of like a role play, like D&D style game.
Wow.
Like it was based off of like like their gaming or something. But it's essentially, I love the show. I haven't read the books because I watched the show because my friend was really into it. And I personally love like sci-fi fantasy shows. And I love like things set in space. I love like post-apocalyptic stuff. And it's set into like Earth's future. And it's set in a future where there's Earth. There's the Earth faction. There's Martians, which is people who have settled on Mars. And like now, you know, they kind of want to terraform Mars, and like they kind of resent Earth for like not providing more supplies or support. And
Sounds very Martian.
yeah. And then people called Belters, who it's kind of like they've colonized the asteroid belt. And
They're called Belters?
yeah, Belters, because they're on the asteroid belt. And then kind of like the political conflicts between those factions, and how it's like it's very tense and it might lead to war. And then in the middle of this scenario is this thing that's discovered that it's like you don't know what it is at first. You're like, is it a weapon? Is it like an alien species? But it's called the protomolecule.
Okay.
And essentially it's this new factor that comes into this kind of like almost simmering situation of the three factions, and kind of changes things because people are like who does it belong to? Like, are they people using it as a weapon? Like, does this escalate to war? And it's so compelling. It's so good.
Wow.
It starts off a bit slowly, but then you really start to love the characters. And I love it because also I think it's like probably like the premier sci-fi show out there right now.
I'm going to look up the characters right now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to look at the poster.
Yeah. And then I think it's because also they are very, very like devoted to trying to make it scientifically accurate in terms of like space stuff. So it's kind of like it's not like completely hard science, but it's definitely like hard-ish science. So so like
cool.
when they approach like because the main crew is in a spaceship called the Rocinante, and when they approach that like playing around like G-forces and all of that stuff, it's all very like scientifically based. They try to be accurate, and I love it. It's like you can really see the respect that they give
It's
to
like
that kind of
true
material.
science fiction.
Yeah,
not
true
just
science fiction.
Not like Star Wars, which is just a space opera.
Yeah, space opera.
Do you feel like, because I really like sci-fi as well too.
Yeah,
Watch
you're
it.
a
Oh my
huge
God.
sci-
Watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely would
It's on
wanna
Amazon
try
Prime.
watching it. But do you feel like, because I read a lot of sci-fi novels and short stories, do you feel like something with that genre, it being sci-fi, it makes you ask more like philosophical questions
definitely.
about the world? Like it tends to want to
I
go
think by
make
nature,
a statement.
it asks a lot of philosophical questions because it goes into the nature of like what it means to be human. Because when you deal with like aliens, robots, all of that stuff, it really like a lot of things are just like mirrors that we see our own reflection in, and then it makes you kind of think about like, what makes us who we are, and how
Right.
like how are we different from like robots, how are we different from aliens, all of that stuff. And
Tarkovsky has an amazing quote
Yeah.
about that I can't recall, but it was something along the lines of like the more we set our eyes to the stars, the more
Yes.
it directs our gaze back to
upon
us. Yeah.
And like the very nature of sci-fi, it has to do with kind of the expansion of what we know and the universe, and how can you not think about like those kind of philosophical questions when faced with that, because it's like expanding beyond the world that you know. So I think it naturally, as that quote says. So
Yeah, Tarkovsky, he directed the original Solaris, which was a sci-fi film. But this is just a side question off of what you said earlier.
yeah.
But D&D. So this whole idea came out of Dungeons
Well,
and Dragons.
I don't think it's D&D because I'm not quite sure. It's like a tabletop game. Because
Okay.
do they call it the same thing? Because when I think D&D, I think like Dungeons and Dragons, and this is like sci-fi D&D.
So it's like sci-fi
revealing
D&D.
gaps
There's-
in my knowledge right now.
There's
So-
different types of
Okay, so I have a big question about D&D, and I've only played it like once or twice,
never
but not
played it.
consistent. Yeah, so you've never played
Yeah.
it. So maybe this is a question for our listeners, but I really want to play D&D and want to join a campaign. But for me, one of the hangups that I feel like the first thing that comes to my mind that I'm like, is like, and this might be just a really rudimentary question, but with D&D, do you just have to stick with that one mission that the story
No.
master or whatever tells you?
No.
Really? So, for example, okay, you start out with a team, and they're like, oh, we have to get this crystal or whatever in order to save the world. Can I, as a character, just be like, I want to like go to the mall and see what they're selling, and then I want to depart from this group. I'm gonna figure out where the richest neighborhood is in this town. I'm gonna go to one of their balls or their social gatherings. I'm gonna try to become friends with like the richest like young socialite daughters.
You can do that, but I think the
You
rest
can?
of the rest of your team might be a little annoyed at you.
Really?
They're like, are we just gonna wait for you? Like, while you
No,
go shopping?
they should just go off
But
into
then they'll
their
have two
journey
different
fighting
journeys.
orcs or whatever. But it's like to me, if I'm dropped into a fantasy world, like I kind of don't want to fight. I just want to figure out, okay, how does the social structure work? How do I rise to the top?
Whoa.
Like who are the important players in this society? Who can I be friends with? That's the first thing. Like I need to find my peers. I need to find my
Right.
tribe. I definitely don't think like
I
this
kinda
soldier and this wizard is
I
my
kind of think
tribe.
that Dungeon Master would try to like push you into the
Push you-
journey.
yeah.
Somehow,
But
like
but I can keep resisting, and meanwhile,
that'd be
Okay,
a
yeah.
really interesting D&D game.
okay, I just wanted to know because it's
But
like,
do you know what also might happen? Like,
What?
they might kill you.
see, that's
Maybe
it's
they're like, oh
that's
my
so-
god,
Or
he's
they
too
might kill the
annoying.
team.
They're
Yeah.
like writing
There.
me off. It's like if it's a show, it's like, oh, you're being a difficult actor, so we're gonna write you off. Like, see, that's my only hang up. Is like I don't want to go on
Adventure.
I don't want to go into a dungeon and like
You gotta kill the witch, Minkyu.
I don't want to kill the witch. I want to become the witch. I want power for
that could be
myself. I don't
interesting.
want to save that. Like I want power for myself, and then like I want a lot of money so I can make those dreams come true. So towards the end, I could just be like, oh, I'll just like Daenerys, like buy this army.
You know, you could make it happen if you were the dungeon master.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
see, then that would be so much pressure to me for like
Right.
to like, oh, you want to do this, like, cause wouldn't you kind of get that? And again, if we have any amazing dungeon masters, please write us in and like let us know how it actually works.
Yeah,
we're
because I
so
wonder
ignorant.
if people are listening to this right now and they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they're like,
Like,
no, we
this
have
isn't
that
how any of
moment.
this works.
We had that moment in last week's episode too, where
Right.
it's like, okay, our listeners are pulling their hair out right now. But yeah, that was just my only little anecdote question that I had, where it's like,
I've only experienced dungeon like D&D through TV shows. So
And
like
the Dragonlance books.
Yeah, and the Dragonlance books. Yeah, that I love. I mean, the closest thing I with D&D was I used to play Mud. Do you guys know what Mud is?
no.
All right, that's like super nerdy stuff. Okay. It's like Mud is basically text-based. It was before Warcraft or any of these video
To
games.
quote Gaston, where are all the pictures?
So there is basically a chat room for D&D. So you type everything's descriptive with words. There's no pictures.
Yeah.
And people get married there. They have
Whoa.
adventures there. They like literally
intense.
live in this like it's kind of like was it? What,
Isn't this
Is
like
this
Second
WoW?
Life?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Maybe it's like Second Life. It's like pre-Second Life.
Okay, so we have a few more questions for you. Are you good
Yes.
time wise? Are
Yeah.
we good time wise for just a
Yeah, no.
yeah?
We'll
just
just
a few more questions.
cut out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we'll cut out.
We'll make it a
We'll
2-hour
see.
episode.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So going back to like the whole story, like in terms of the story question, how do you come up with stories personally?
I don't know. It's just like, it's hard because I feel like everyone's process is different. And I've just been, ever since I was like a little kid, I've been coming up with stories. I think that as I've gotten older, the nature of those stories have changed. Like back when I was like a little kid, it was very much like fantasy stuff, like dragons, princesses, like superpowers, all of that stuff, because I thought that was really cool. And I think these days, I think a lot of the stories that we want to tell are informed by our life experiences. And I really think that like either whether it's like telling like a true story, like a more nonfiction thing, or like a fantasy thing, it's really informed by just what we've gone through and then what we want to share about what we learned in that process. And so I think that coming up with stories now, a lot of them are based off of something in life. And it's like taking what I've experienced in life, but then also immersing it in the world which I enjoy playing it in, which is like a lot of times fantasy, like a fantasy world. Like I still love fantasy.
Are those the type of scenes that you love, that most excite you in terms of getting storyboard assignments, or do you have any particular types of scenes?
I think that when it comes to storyboarding assignments, at least for feature, like the way, I don't know how it works at every studio exactly, but a lot of times, just as you progress in your career, sometimes you develop that, sometimes you realize, that you have like certain things are your strengths. Like some people just really love doing funny stuff. Some people love doing action scenes. They're like, I really thrive on like making camera moves and doing cool action moves. And some people really love like emotional scenes where they're like getting at the heart of it.
Yeah.
And I think that you develop strengths whether you like it or not. And then sometimes you end up just getting assigned that kind of scene because they're like, oh, that's what you're really good at.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to diversify, but sometimes like whether you like it or not, you just get pegged as like you're the funny guy, you're the emotional guy.
Yeah.
Or
do you feel like there's a little bit of sexism in there too? Like sometimes in some situations where like maybe some director gives certain story artists a certain type of scene and a little bit unfairly cast. Are there a lot of situations where it feels that way, or
I guess
not
in
really?
my experience, it hasn't been like inherently sexist, even though like certainly there might be a structure there in place that like that exists there that I just haven't felt. I do think that a lot of times women do get like more emotional scenes because I think they're like, oh, like not to say that because they're like, oh, women are just more empathetic, but I think that sometimes we are there. I think that they get the scenes because they are good at them, but then also it's like, but why don't they get action scenes?
Right.
And it might be true that it's like, well, there's someone else who's really good at action who may like happen to be a dude or something, but I also still do think that it's like it'd be great if women had the opportunity to have different kind of scenes. And I know that with like the constraints of schedule and stuff, that sometimes it's like we just need to get the scene done and we need to get it done reliably. So we're just going to give people like what they're good at, like what we think they're good at. But they aren't going to get a more well-rounded artist unless they give people the opportunity to try those kind of scenes and to, sometimes make mistakes. They won't get it right on the first time, but they're never going to progress beyond whatever like pigeonhole they're put in unless they have the opportunity to do so. So
do you think part of that equation too is like maybe people can be a little bit more, they can feel safer to be more vocal about like, hey, I'd like to board this scene, or I would like to get a scene like this?
I think certainly that environment would help, and I think that in this day and age with like much tighter schedules and stuff, sometimes people don't feel like they should vocalize that, or they're just like, I just want to, like, I'm just happy to be here, so I'll just take whatever they give me. But I think that, and I think, sometimes it is intimidating because there are, like, you might be a perfectly accomplished storyboard artist, but you're just really not used to, like, an action scene or something. And then there's the intimidating aspect of, like, you really want to get it because you really want to try it. And it's, like, action scenes are usually, like, great and meaty and awesome. But then you get it and you're like, holy shit, like, how do I do this justice? Like, I don't want to disappoint anybody. And that's why I feel like we really need, within studios, a more culture of learning, I guess. We're giving people opportunities to take chances and take risks and make mistakes, and to nurture them and mentor them through that process. Because what you get is, especially if you want to have a crew there, if you want to grow your crew there, if you want to invest in them, a lot of studios like to say like, oh, we're a family here. Like, if you want to nurture that, then you have to give people room to like take risks, make mistakes, and then because that there's no other way for them to become like a more well-rounded artist,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. So there's this one last question that I had, and I think for me, I think it's a really important one because just as a story artist, you need to just produce so many that's like part of the job. You have to produce a lot of drawings very quickly, and you have to you constantly have to throw it up and not feel bad about people throwing it away or editing it in a different way, and it's a constant, and part of it is being able to figure out like it's just actually a lot of labor. It's very, very laborious, and because of you know, a lot of people that are interested in it, like maybe they don't understand like how much labor it is, but also like how do you like manage to have a good work-life balance where it's like, okay, well, I need to, like, they'll have a deadline for you, and when you look at the script, it seems like it might be 150 panels, but it starts to turn out to be
It's never
400.
150 panels.
Yeah.
Shiyoon.
Oh, God.
But then, like, how do you manage that? Like, especially like for people that are starting out and they're trying to get their foot in the door in different stages of their life, where like, okay, like they have kids, and they need to go to pick up their kid, and they want to spend time with their kids too. And then towards even as people get older too, they have less energy. I think, like when you're 40, 50 years.
Sheen's theme consistently,
just
because he
like-
talked
he's
about
just
this
like
last
projecting
episode.
this.
Yeah,
He's
no,
just like, oh my
I
God.
mean, it's always.
But I think about that because I mean it's a joy to have a job to be able to draw for a living, but also to be able to manage all that in a healthy way. Like I think that's also important to talk
Yeah,
about.
I mean, I think on one hand, it is kind of like going back to the like, what do I rate the American animation industry? I think on one hand, it's one of the like the flaws of it is just the kind of like schedules that are have been around that are continuing, where it's like an emphasis on like shorter schedules for more work, and then and just sometimes like when it comes to storyboarding, like really overboarding, I guess, where it's
Right.
like in these days, like it's easier for executives, I think, to see animatics where it's like, oh, everything's fully animated, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, now we can get it, versus like, hey, like beat boards kind of suffice, and they're
Yeah.
like, what is this? I don't understand.
Right.
But I think it's like shorter schedules, more work, and then like how on earth do you balance that? And I don't have kids, so I honestly don't even know how parents do it sometimes, like out of sheer
Yeah.
necessity, because they have children. It's like you have to go, like when you have to go to take care of them. But I think for me, work-life balance is just, and I know that I'm speaking from a place of privilege too, because I feel like I've been very fortunate to have consistent work over my career, like the past 9-10 years. Like, so I haven't been in the position yet where I'm like really, really scared not to have a job, which I know is a privilege in this country in general. And I think the work-life balance is at just some point like prioritizing life over work. And the thing is, like, you always have to tend to your work. You have to meet your deadline. You have to get the stuff done. But so what I mean in terms of prioritizing life over work is that, like, I do what I have to do to get the work done. But then when there's something that I really want to do for life, like traveling or self-care,
Yeah, you love traveling.
I love
Yeah,
traveling.
yeah.
I really, really love traveling. And you just have to prioritize it. You have to
Yeah.
make it a priority, or else you'll never get to it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so what you do is, like, sometimes, like, you make sure you get your work done, you meet your deadline. But other than that, you say, like, hey, this is really important to me. I'm going to put it first in a way.
Yeah, I heard one really good traveling tip from somebody,
Yeah.
because like a lot of times that's how a lot of people feel, is like, oh, I really want to go to, London and visit, but I just never can find the time to. They're like, just pick a date like a few months down and just book the ticket.
Book the
And
ticket.
then you'll work, your life will adjust around it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like that. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean by prioritizing, is like, just decide that this is going to happen, and then find a way to work around it.
That's
And-
so badass, Carrie.
Yeah. And I mean, also it's like, I feel fortunate because in animation, I feel like there are certain opportunities that other industries may not have, where you can kind of like find a way to squeeze in travel. Like if I ever transition between jobs, I always book a trip, because if someone's hiring
That's
you,
amazing.
and then they're like, oh, anything else we should know? Just tell them, hey, I have this 2-week travel planned.
Smart.
And that's coming up. Like, is that okay? And they're not going to say no, because they want to hire you.
Yeah.
Like, they want to hire you, so they'll find a way to work around it. And it's kind of like the same thing with like salary too. It's like, just say just put it out there. All they can do is say no or counter, but you never know what you can get until you just ask for it or like prioritize it. So
What do you love about traveling so much?
I just love, and I know that again, traveling is like a privilege and a luxury, and it's not the same for all people. But I think the thing I love about traveling is that I just realized after taking trips that I can buy a lot of things, but travel is like one thing I never regret spending money on, because I form these memories, these connections. I have these experiences that like I'll never lose, and that honestly help inform and expand my worldview. I really think that it's just like we live in such like an amazing, wide, wonderful world, and we filled with so many cultures that are like so different from each other, but so wonderful in their own way. And like to experience some of that, it just blows your mind. Like we are all so lucky, and I know that it's like.
It's almost like going to a different planet, like
Exactly,
talking about
yeah.
sci-fi.
Yeah, talking about sci-fi. And I know that it's hard because not everyone has the opportunity to do that. And so they don't get to always experience like what I'm saying. But I think if people do have the opportunity, it's like, it's very life affirming too, in a way, to experience things and then see people who are living on the same planet as you, but whose lives are so dramatically different in different ways. And to see how we're similar in many ways but different in others.
Did your family kind of instill that? Like,
yeah, my dad was, he loved traveling. And I think that I definitely got it from him, because he loved going places. And, you know, when I was younger, I didn't appreciate it, because he would take us somewhere and he'd be like, hey, look at this building, like this museum, the history of it. And we're like, can I play my Game Boy now or something? Like, I didn't care back then, but like, I think I've kind of like assumed the role that he played in his friends' lives and with my own friends, where it's like, I love being that person who plans trips and being like, hey, check out this cool thing. Like, did you know this thing about it? Because it is fascinating. It's so interesting. Like, the world is so full of like awesome, cool, wonderful stuff. And you know, also it is full of some like not so cool, like depressing stuff too, but that's part of it all too. It's like expanding your worldview and knowing what's out there. And it gives you a more global worldview, I should say, where it's like, if you're always stuck in one place, like if you're never exposed to certain things, then of course, like you can only envision so much, you know, but if you expand that thinking, then I don't know, it really changes your perspective sometimes, I'd have to say. And also traveling, it's a wonderful way to meet people who are, like people from all over the world. And I think it's like, the more, I know that there's like a lot of division in our country right now, and honestly in other countries in the world and between countries, but honestly I feel like the more you connect with people, like really, like the more you can see that like we're not so different from each other, and the more you can understand and empathize with each other. So yeah.
Do you have a favorite country so
Yes.
far that you where?
I have a top three.
Top three.
So,
All right,
okay.
nice.
I have a top. Okay, and then it's actually a top four, because like one of them is tied.
You
So
can make it top 5 if you want.
okay, I think top top 5 then. So
Are we gonna rank them or?
No, there's
No,
just
they're
a
all
top.
equal in
They're all
different
equal,
ways.
okay.
Yeah.
So like the top 5 places I've been, 4 or 5, is one of them's Iceland, because it's just such like, first of all, if you like traveling too, or if you want to travel solo, that's a really great country to travel to solo for the first time, because they all speak
So
English
safe.
there. It's extremely safe. It's so safe, and it's so beautiful. It is for people who prefer like outdoorsy activities and stuff, because it's a lot of nature. But it was the first trip I ever took solo, and it was just wonderful, because I got
Like Carrie
to...
last year, she helped me plan my
Oh, yes,
itinerary for
yeah.
Iceland. Thank
Oh
you
my
so
gosh.
much. It
I
was
hope
so.
you had the most amazing time.
I did, thanks to you. I just want to scream at it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I highly encourage solo travel, just because you learn a lot about yourself. Like, you learn a lot about how capable you really are as a person, which I think is really great, because
It's It's
it is
life transforming. Yeah.
And it can help apply to so many other aspects of your life. So I love Iceland. The people are wonderful. The only thing is like the food is not always that great, because I mean, obviously they're an island, so
Yeah.
it's a very like
liked it.
limited to a certain foods,
Smorgasbords.
Yeah.
I love the smorgasbords.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you don't eat like fish or meat or anything. It's more limited. So, and then I really love this little place in Arizona called Havasu Falls. Havasupai. It's close to the Grand Canyon, but it's this little place that you can go camping. They do it by a permit system, which gets more and more difficult to do every year. But it's this place with a series of waterfalls that are just blue-green water, the most gorgeous thing, like among red rock. It's so beautiful. And it's great because I feel like you really have to earn it because there's no way to get there except for hiking in. I guess you could take the helicopter, but
Is
come
that
on,
where
guys.
Beyonce shot her most recent
Yes,
music video?
she did.
Cool.
Though
Yeah.
she shut it down for a few hours, and people were pretty upset about that. So they're like,
It's Beyonce.
what?
Come on, guys. You're kidding.
Yeah, but that place is gorgeous, and it was like it's like a nature oasis, and you can't believe that it's in the middle of like the middle of nowhere desert. So, it's like my only backpacking experience, but I've done it like 3 or 4 times, and I absolutely love it. Another place that I love is Switzerland. Another like solo trip I took, but Switzerland, mostly the Swiss Alps, because one of my weird specific interests is I love reading about alpine climbing and sometimes like alpine disasters. Like I just love man versus nature stories and man or woman versus nature. And the Swiss Alps are just gorgeous. I went like in summertime and it literally was like the Sound of Music kind of thing where you go up into the hills and the grass is green and there are flowers and you can hear like the echoing of cowbells bouncing throughout the mountains and stuff.
that's
Isn't that
awesome.
where Saint Bernards are from too?
Are they?
Aren't
Probably,
they like
yeah.
the Saint Bernards? The
Maybe,
reason why you
yeah.
see them with their iconic like little
Barrels,
barrel on the
yeah.
it's because like I think
It's like
the
alcohol
monks up there had them as rescue dogs.
Yeah.
And so what they would do is they would track people. I don't know if any of this is true, but this is just what I've heard. Is like they would track people lost in the snow, and then they would feed them the alcohol because that warms up the body.
Yeah.
And then they would like rescue them.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So at least we either both heard the same lie or it's somewhat true. So yeah.
Someone clarify that for us, please.
Yeah, but the Swiss Alps are gorgeous if you go. I went to Lauterbrunnen or something. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but it's just, yeah, I just hiked all day and like picnicked while I was on the trail. And they have like, the culture is just so different there because it's all hiking culture. And you can like hike for a while and then you'll come across this farmhouse or chalet where they have food that you can buy and like bathrooms and stuff. And there's just cows roaming across the trails and stuff. It's really, really beautiful. Another place is Egypt, which I had the pleasure of going to last year with some coworkers. And I have to say that like I love it so much because you go some places in Europe and you're like, oh, this is very similar to home. But you go to Egypt and you're like, wow, this is a totally different culture.
Isn't
really wanna
Egypt
go
really?
there.
Because I actually think Egypt's really interesting because if a lot of if you track back Roman art back to German art,
if you track back
to-
civilization.
to Egypt, I mean, a lot of that knowledge actually came from Egypt.
Yeah.
And when you look at the design, it there's something very mystical about it. Like, how was it like to actually be
It's
in
incredible.
those
'cause
spaces?
Because it blew my mind that I could go to those ancient spaces and I'm not saying you should like rub your hand against the wall, but like they don't stop you from like touching the wall. I'm like, I'm
Right.
touching like the
Yeah.
etchings the hieroglyphs from like ancient times,
Thousands
and
Yeah.
thousands of years ago. And then in some places you still see the paint that they colored,
Oh,
that
wow.
they painted the walls because a lot of it was painted.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the is that Greek or Roman, those statues where I forgot the term for it, where we're so used to seeing them as like the bare marble.
Right.
No,
But they were
yeah.
always
But they're all
painted.
They were
painted,
always
so it
painted,
looks like
yeah.
really weird to us.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is ugly.
Right.
It's
take it
like
away.
jarring.
Yeah, like their columns and stuff were painted back then too. So it blows my mind to go there and you can see like the temple, like all the temples, like Karnak and stuff. You could look up and see like the remnants of the original paint
Wow.
on there, and it's just so
That's awesome.
fascinating. Like I forgot what temple it is, but there was a temple where there was a room that was that just had like perfume recipe ingredients. The room was filled with all the hieroglyphs describe like perfume
Wow.
recipes and stuff. And then I have to say that though, like my Egypt experience was unique because I had the pleasure of traveling with a coworker's fiance's family. My coworker's fiance is this French comic artist, and his family he has family in Egypt, and his sister-in-law she's Egyptian, and then she actually used to work as a tour guide until like the whole Arab Spring thing happened and tourism went down. So a lot of tour guides had to find other jobs because tourism was completely down. But she took us around, and it's incredible to hear the history from her as we were going through the places. And it's incredible just to know that because there's like two sides of the Nile and stuff, and then to know that a lot of people who are still farming along the Nile, like a lot of the farming practices are not that much changed from the way they were like 6,000 years ago. It's insane. It's incredible. And yeah, just the...
I mean, when you look at the artwork too, like there's this feeling of people that want to be immortal. Like, that's what
absolutely.
I get. Like when I look at their artwork
and in a
how
way they have achieved that because we're still
themselves.
looking at it. And I think another funny thing, just to get like the scope of the history of like all the places in Egypt, is we'd go to certain temples and you would see carved graffiti from like the 1800s. Whereas when like French soldiers like the wars and stuff, when they would pass through, how they would like
graffiti
how it's like some dumb teenager this day who's carving something on the walls, and they're like, oh, Bub was here, and then there would be like, Philippe something something was Philippe something, and then it's like 1851, and you're like, what?
But what's interesting too is that their art never changed for a long. I mean, their art was so tied in with their religion that it didn't change for a long.
Though you can
period.
actually see in certain temples some stylistic differences. Like I forgot which temple it was. It was like this unfinished one, but within the same temple, you could see slight variations in the way they depicted people or like gods and stuff, because it was, and that marked like different time periods.
Have you guys read that book Story of Art by Gombrich?
No.
That's the book.
Oh, that's what you're thinking of?
Well, it's a really good book. Actually, Glenn recommended it to me to read, and it's just like a really humanistic, wide scope view on the history of art. I think I haven't read that many art history books, but
that one's fantastic.
Yeah, to me, from what I understand, like it's the art history book to read if you've never read any art history book, and so it's like just read that, and then it's like
it was even saying like, because they believed the way they drew was how they went into the other world, so they didn't want to draw anything in perspective, because like if you drew it in perspective,
because it was their draw. Sorry. It was also their drawing was part of like their language and how they communicated. So like everyone kind of had to have that like uniformity, but at the same time, there were that also contributed to like only certain people being able to be artists, and like also the art style not growing. But at the same time, like Carrie said, there are like these little rebels,
like subtle
rebels in history where it's like,
yeah.
I'm gonna draw the hand like this, I'm gonna draw the face like this, and people are like, oh.
Do you know what I love seeing too, though? It's like, when you think of Egyptian art, you think of like, how did they get everything like so perfect? Like a lot of like straight lines and all of that stuff. And there was a temple we went into, like an unfinished one, where because it was unfinished, you could actually see very faintly
like the
grid lines that the artist made. And I'm like, they use grid lines? Like, of course, but I never thought about it.
Well, I was
so cool.
reading that if they drew it wrong, then it would be deformed on the other side. Or there was like, so if you drew something in perspective on that wall, the way you or maybe someone could correct me.
You're getting
our listeners have a lot of writing
right?
to do. Thank you.
But I heard that it would be that would carry over to the afterlife, and so your arm would be deformed in that way. So the clearest way to draw was so that everything would be at a certain angle. And so like I could imagine as an artist,
the pressure
of like drawing the form, a figure,
perfect.
Has to be perfect.
You're in charge of someone else's afterlife,
right?
Not even this life, but like the eternal afterlife.
Right. Don't mess it up. No.
Okay, so I have one more question before we go.
Okay.
Is there anything that you still want to achieve in the animation industry?
Yeah, I think there are.
Did Carrie say all the top 5?
Oh,
Oh,
wait.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
I mean,
sorry.
I said 4, but like,
No,
I mean,
okay,
it really
wait.
is
No,
4.
sorry. Yeah, what's the 5th one?
Oh, the 5th one, I didn't really have a 5th one, but I just say I really love Taiwan because that's where my family is
Oh,
from,
I
and
wanna
I think
visit
that's the
Taiwan
number one
so
country,
bad.
and it's my backup country in case everything here goes to shit. Because I have
Yeah.
I have a passport.
Yeah, do
and
we all
so-
have backup
Nice.
countries, you guys?
Yeah, please.
Do we have one?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you guys have backup countries?
Yeah, start forming
Yeah.
a list. Go on their version of
The
Redfin.
food is amazing. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Everyone visit Taiwan. Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Yeah,
they're
I want
very
to.
they're very like LGBTQ friendly.
Yeah,
Oh.
And
the first
the
place
healthcare
to
is great.
legalize
So-
gay marriage in
Yeah,
all of
in
Asia.
Asia.
Yeah.
So
What do you want to? Is there anything else in the animation industry that you haven't done yet, that you haven't achieved yet, that you want to? Looking to the future.
Yeah, sure. I do think that like I always want to draw, so I have thought sometimes that like, oh, maybe I don't want to like go to certain leadership positions because a lot of times it seems like more going to meetings than drawing. But I do think I love the idea of having the control that a director has
Yeah.
and being able to tell your own story, and being able to do it with becoming like a director at a big studio to have like the resources of that studio.
gotta do it.
Yeah, like it is a goal, though it's not like it hasn't been like my driving goal for this whole time, but I think it would be nice. I would like to direct something at some point. And I think overall, I would like to at least be in some sort of position where I can help shepherd in like more innovative ideas and like kind of help facilitate like more stories by people of color and women being told, like, and also Asians and stuff. Yeah, just because that's like what I want to see in the animation industry. And I know a lot of people want to see that too. And I'd love to be in the position to help make that happen. And I think overall, just in animation, less on the creative product side, but more on like the working side, I'd love to help get involved to make like working conditions better for people in animation too. And just like other, possibly leading to other creative industries like the VFX and gaming, and just because I all feel like we're united in making being creatives, and it can be really hard, and I would like to see those kind of conditions improve. So yeah, I would like to, I don't know, just help make a good impact.
Well, thank you so much for coming on
Yeah,
our
it was
show
my
and
Thanks so much,
pleasure.
Carrie.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It
We
was
had
really fun.
A lot of really good meaty conversations today.
Yeah.
We'll have more spicy
Yeah,
parts.
up the spice level gradually.
Yeah, the spice level
I
will
want you
go
to hear
up
the
as the
spice level will
podcast
go up.
progresses, but we just
When
need to
you-
let the
when you
audience
serve
know
some
we mean
tea,
no
so-
harm. We're coming
Yeah.
from a good place. Please don't hate us. Please don't cancel us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That was
Yeah,
very
it was
illuminating.
my pleasure.
Can't wait to see what you... Did you work on Frozen 2 as well?
I did not, but
Okay.
I worked on the one that was announced recently, Raya and the Last Dragon. I
Okay,
did work on
yay.
that.
Yay,
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Do you
That
have
comes
anything
out.
to plug? Anything? Where can people find you?
Oh, I have an Instagram. I guess
What's
the
the handle?
The handle is. Do you know the Cookie Monster song "C is for cookie"? Mine is "C is for French fry," which makes no sense, but there you go.
So it's C is for French fry?
Yes.
Okay. It just spelled out like
all
that?
one word. Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
C is for French fry. I always wondered
But,
what your
but
Instagram handle meant.
everyone also always thinks it's Sis French fry, which is like a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
but
get
that's
into that
okay.
later.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks so much, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie.
And until next time, bye, guys.
Bye. See ya.